I settled on describing how I would describe somebody who had never met him before. And if you've never met him, he's sort of like what you would get if you typed in cartoon character on Grindr. Please welcome Quinn A. Handel.
Keep that round of applause going for Tim Wong, who made this all happen. This man is currently shitting bricks because we've gone about 15 minutes overtime. But so if you want to see someone falling apart at the edges, look no further than Tim Wong here in the corner. Woo! Thank you all so much for coming out tonight and supporting such an important cause. All of us feel really close to it. What with all of us are, just like the people you're supporting, struggling stand-up comedians in college, and just coming out here and boosting our egos means the world to us. So thank you all so much for doing that. I want to start with giving you just a little image that will be helpful going forward. So just kind of get this in your mind. So you're driving, you're in your car, and you look out and you see. So on my way back from Syracuse last spring, my flight out of Syracuse got delayed pretty significantly. Like, they overbooked it. So instead of keeping me there until the next day, they gave me a slap on the ass and a $500 Lyft gift card. So I took a Lyft all the way to Buffalo, New York, where I was supposed to fly out of. Yeah, so I had about 7.5 hours between when I got there and when my flight was. So I decided I was gonna go and kind of tool around downtown Buffalo for a little while. So I get out and I check the bus schedule for, I think, the first time in my life, because I grew up in Minnesota, in like suburban Minnesota. Yeah. Yes! Shout out all my Minnesotans here. I grew up in suburban Minnesota, which meant that my main method of transportation was my bike and privilege. So having to use a bus was really big for me and really special. So I walked to the bus stop, and the bus is gonna be here for another like 20 minutes. So I go and I just start walking to the next stop, and I get there and I still have a while. So I just start walking, and at this point I'm just kind of grooving, like I'm moving down the street, I'm mouthing Noah Kahn, which, first of all, mouthing Noah Kahn sounds like the kind of book I would have loved in 7th grade at the very beginning of my sexuality crisis, you know, like Love, Simon After Dark, mouthing Noah Kahn. And also, I will never know how I managed to groove to music that sounds like country if instead of trucks they drove Nissans, and instead of whiskey they drank THC seltzers. But regardless, eventually, as I'm kind of lost on my own adventure, I see the bus and it just passes me by. And my first thought is, well, I guess I have to hitchhike now. Which, in a world of Lyft, Uber, and more buses, I feel like really shouldn't be my first instinct. But regardless, I get a page out of my notebook, and on it I write, "Downtown Buffalo!" ! Smiley face, so they know I do not have a gun. And I stand there at a busy intersection with my thumb out, like safety, for about an hour and a half. Like, these people do not want to pick me up, which is fair. This is what I look like. I'm a college student with a child's backpack. And just as I'm about to give up hope, like the sky is getting dark, it looks like it's going to start raining soon. A voice from God, frankly, comes to my left. Do you need help? Now, this is an interesting question. Because would I like a free ride to downtown Buffalo? Yes. But do I really need help? And just as I'm debating the moral ethics of this quandary, the first raindrop hits me in the forehead, and I realize my answer, yes, I do need help. So I start walking over to this car, and it's a woman who's about my age. And I'm like, hey, how's it going? I'm kind of explaining who I am, where I am going. And she's like, great, hop in. So she pops it open and goes, wait, are you a murderer? Now this is another absolute banger of a question. For anybody wondering, my answer, no, I am not. But if I was, would I say anything? No. Which are the first words I say to her as I'm getting in her car. Which can't be the best first impression, you know? Like, hi, welcome to my car. If I was gonna kill you, I wouldn't say anything. You know, like, when I decided I was gonna hitchhike, I kind of figured, like, I'd be putting myself in a vulnerable position. Like, hey, Mr. Truckman, don't drive into a tree. It's to my backpack, you know? Haha, but... Instead, I've just gotten into this car with a woman who now has valid reason to believe that I kill people. So I'm just kind of like info dumping about myself, my thought process being that she'll feel safer if she knows that, like, if she had to go to a police station for... We're so back. The thought process being that if she had to go to a police station, she'd know that right away. She could be like, his name is Quinn A. Hendel, he's about yay high. He goes to Syracuse University where he studies acting. He wrote his college essay about falling in love with a bug, but he was 5, so it's fine, I think. And he had his first kiss in full drag makeup with a girl, I know. So eventually we get talking about school, and I'm like, I go to Syracuse. She's like, awesome. I'm like, where do you go? And she goes, I go to Amherst Central. And I'm thinking, that's a funny name for a college. What do you study? And she goes, I'm a senior. And I go, that's not what I... Oh my God. She's in high school. So I've just used my charm and charisma to hitchhike a ride with a random high schooler, you know, like Ted Bundy. So now we're cruising down the highway and I'm thinking, all right, is it worse to jump out of a moving car on a highway or not jump out of a moving car on a highway? So I'm sitting there the whole time, I'm like, so you can just kind of like drop me off whenever you want, like wherever's good for you is good for me. And she's like, sure, let me just call my mom. That'll be like all cleared up. You know, actually, my mom probably wouldn't love that I'm doing this. I better not. Oh my God, I'm dry heaving. So I spend the rest of the car ride sitting there with my hands clearly visible on my knees, like a freak. Until eventually she drops me off in downtown Buffalo. And it is the most terrified I've ever been in my whole life. Like, eventually she told me that she had her friend, like, on call the whole time, just on mute, so that made me feel a lot better. But still, like, you will never come close to feeling the same amount of terror that I did in that moment. It was legitimately horrifying. But after a while, I kind of tooled around the downtown for a little while, and then eventually I Ubered back to the airport, which kind of feels like climbing a mountain and then taking the escalator down. Nailed the metaphor. But then I made it back to the airport. I had some ramen with colored pencils for my backpack, and eventually I made it back to Minnesota. Guys, thank you so much for coming out. So that's what I said.